Hey everyone, I'm here today to talk about gauge. Once you've been crocheting or knitting for a little while, you've probably noticed that on the patterns there's this little part that says gauge. So what is gauge? In crochet and knitting, gauge is a way of measuring how thick or thin, tall or short your stitches are. So if it says 8 double crochet equals 3 inches, that means if I measured the distance 8 double crochet stitches wide, that would be 3 inches on my tape measure or on my ruler. By the same token, if it says that like 12 rows is 4 inches, then if I measure 12 rows up, I would see on my tape measure that it's 4 inches. So why is gauge important? You see, we all crochet just a little bit differently. So if I had worsted weight yarn and an H hook, and my friend had worsted weight yarn and an H hook, even if we both made a piece 20 stitches wide with the exact same stitches, it wouldn't be the exact same size. One of us would be crocheting a tiny bit tighter and have a smaller piece, and the other person might be crocheting a tiny bit looser and have a larger piece. So the gauge of your stitches and whether your stitches are bigger or smaller is going to affect two things. One, it's going to affect the amount of yarn you use. So the pattern states the amount of yarn required. That's based off the given item with the given gauge. So if your stitches are tighter and smaller, you're going to use less yarn. If your stitches are bigger or wider, you're going to use more yarn. The second thing it affects is the finished size. So if your stitches are smaller than the stated gauge, your finished piece is going to be smaller than the finished measurements listed on the pattern. So maybe what looks like a nice lap gan size is really going to be closer to a baby blanket when you're done. By the same token, if your stitches are bigger or taller than the stated gauge in the pattern, what's going to happen is maybe that newborn cardigan you make is really going to fit like a 3 or a 4-year-old. That's why it's so important to check your gauge and match your gauge to the pattern. In some future videos, I will talk about how to measure your gauge and some ways and tricks you can use to match the gauge in a stated pattern. If you want that information and other cool crochet and knit and crafty tips, make sure to go to my blog, thelindsylife.com, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you next time.